Today on ZZZ Made Easy, we're learning how to stage dive with Aria. This video will cover the basics of Aria's main mechanics, how you can build her, and some tips you can go into. We'll also cover some extra tips at the end. This video was made in collaboration with Hoyoverse and uses footage from the creator beta server. Sound effects are not enabled and things are subject to change. Thank you Hoyoverse for letting me participate. Aria is an S-rank ether anomaly agent from the Angels of Delusion. She's the main damage dealer of the group and has a relatively easy to execute game plan of bombarding the enemy with plunge attacks. To do these back-to-back ground slams, Aria will need to rely on the Delulus Fandom Power and can further empower her plunges during stun phases. While Aria is more of a solo anomaly carry, she can work with other anomaly agents for disorder. However, Aria will need time in the limelight to showcase the power of delusions. To begin, a refresher on the Ether anomaly. When you fill the anomaly gauge, this will trigger corruption for 10 seconds. Hitting our corrupted foe deals 1 tick of damage, and you can trigger this effect every half a second for a total of 20 ticks of damage potentially. Interestingly, Aria doesn't really focus on getting the full 20 ticks of damage potential out of corruption. After applying corruption, Aria will instead want to hold basic attack to begin charging. After getting the max level 3 charge attack, Aria will jump into the air and dive onto the enemy. I will refer to the charged basic attacks as just plunge attacks throughout this video. Thanks to her core passive, Aria's level 3 plunge attacks can trigger a bloom if foes have an active anomaly. A bloom deals an extra instance of anomaly damage based on a percentage of the original anomaly applied. In the description, you can see 5 percentages for corruption, shock, burn, assault, and freeze/shatter. These values will be multiplied for every 10 points of Aria's initial anomaly mastery stat. Because there are so few ways to build initial anomaly mastery, Aria will typically end up with 208 AM without her signature W engine, or 253 AM with the signature. After you divide these values by 10, you multiply them by the Abloom percentages to get a final number. With 208 anomaly mastery, Aria's corruption Ablooms would deal 572% of the original damage. In other words, if Aria's corruption ticks were to deal 10,000 damage each, then the corruption Ablooms would deal 57,200 damage. Just to be clear, Abloom values for corruption, shock, and burn only look at a single tick of their damage, whereas Abloom values for assault and shatter take into account those anomalies deal all their damage in one single instance. That's why their Abloom percentages are much smaller. Now we aren't done with the core passive just yet. For getting to core passive level F, Aria will gain 90 anomaly proficiency for free. In addition, when foes are stunned, the damage ratio for Aria's Ablooms is increased by 50%. This doesn't mean we add plus 50% to those final Abloom numbers. No, we multiply by 1.5 times the original values. Readjusting the Abloom values from before, this means against a stunned foe, Aria's corruption Abloom will deal 858% of the original damage, assuming she has 208 anomaly mastery. Aria's main goal is to do as many level 3 plunge attacks as possible during a stun phase to take advantage of this huge Abloom scaling. Aria's personalized drive to set will grant extra damage when a stun occurs. Sunna has unusually high impact/daze values for a support, and we now have confirmation that Nangong Yu will be an ether stunner. You can see how everything's coming together for the Angels of Delusion. Sunna provides buffs, Nangong sets up the stun, and Aria will plunge attack away to have huge Abloom procs. With our idle team goal in sight, we need to figure out how to do multiple level 3 plunge attacks faster. Holding basic attack every single time would take too long, so to speed up the process, Aria can use the Delulus Fandom Power. After certain attacks, Aria can generate Fandom Power represented by the green guys with penlights, as well as the penlight resource bar under Aria's icon. Aria can hold up to 8 Fandom Power max. Now if Aria has Fandom Power nearby, while she charges, then she will absorb 1 Fandom Power to gain +1 charge level and plus 10% anomaly build-up rate for the next plunge attack. Aria can absorb 2 Fandom Power at a time to get to the level 3 plunge, as well as get that 20% build-up rate bonus. As a note, Aria is tougher to interrupt and gains 40% damage reduction while charging. During the actual plunge attacks, she is invulnerable. After certain moves, if you hold basic attack while there are at least 2 Fandom Power on the field, Aria will actually consume them instantly to immediately do a level 3 plunge attack. Since she can have 8 Fandom Power at a time, Aria will be able to do 4 plunges in a row. Next, let's discuss all the ways Aria generates Fandom Power. Starting with her basic attack, String, Aria will do 4 ether damage moves, with the 4th basic having iframes while airborne. If you land the 4th basic on the enemy, Aria will gain 1 Fandom Power. Aria's regular special, Full Sugar Electronica, is an ether damage kick, and it's not that important on its own. However, after the 4th basic attack, if you press special with no energy, then Aria would do a no ice version of the regular special. This No Ice special has iframes and will generate 1 Fandom Power if it hits a foe. The 4th basic attack plus the No Ice regular special generates 2 Fandom Power together, which equates to 1 level 3 plunge attack. Aria's main on-foot tactic is to do 4th basic plus special as much as possible. For Aria's EX special, Fall into Delusion, it costs 40 energy and generates 3 Fandom Power if it hits an enemy. After this move, Aria can cast a second EX special called Instantly Hooked for another 40 energy, and this will generate another 3 Fandom Power. There is no indicator on the energy bar for having 80 energy total, so you're just gonna have to eyeball it. Both parts of the EX special do have iframes, and they build up a good amount of anomaly. You can also hold the special button and Aria will cast both moves back to back. Instead of waiting for 80 energy to cast both EX specials for 6 Fandom Power, Aria can use the same playstyle as her regular No Ice special combo. 1/4 basic attack plus 1 EX special generates 4 Fandom Power. I will call this the Delusion combo. Since we can't use the regular special if Aria has 40 energy, the Delusion combo will be the main on-foot combo most of the time. If you did a 4th basic attack plus both EX specials, then Aria would end up with an awkward 7 Fandom Power. Instead, doing 2 separate Delusion combos will get us a nice and even 8 Fandom Power. Aria can then hold basic attack to do the 4 max level plunge attacks all in a row. Since Aria wants to spam plunge attacks during a stun phase, her chain attack is quite useful. Not only does it deal a good amount of anomaly buildup to help proc corruption, but it also grants 4 Fandom Power. If Aria had already done 1 Delusion combo then swapped out to wait for the stun, sending her in for the chain attack will top off her Fandom Power. As for Aria's ultimate, it does an insane amount of anomaly buildup, and she enters the Moment of Delusion state for 15 seconds. During this time, Aria's plunge attacks will be with her Intelligent Construct form, and are enhanced to deal extra base damage. This won't affect anomaly or Abloom damage, but extra damage is extra damage. When entering Moment of Delusion, Aria will gain 3 stacks of All-Out Cheering and activates Aether Veil Delusion Reprise. All-Out Cheering gets its own penlight icon and will be consumed in place of Fandom Power to increase Aria's plunge attack by 2 levels. In other words, the 3 All-Out Cheering stacks grants 3 max level plunges, and these will be consumed before Aria starts using Fandom Power. Moment of Delusion also activates Aether Veil Delusion for Aria. This is the same Aether Veil used by Sunna, and it grants 50 attack to the team. The only difference is that Aria's Aether Veil lasts for 30 seconds instead of 40 seconds. Now, like Sunna, if another Aether Veil Delusion is already active, then Aria will cancel the existing one before activating a new one. This is an important distinction because it will synergize with Aria's additional ability. Speaking of which, Aria's additional ability requires a stun agent, a support agent, or an Angels of Delusion member. When any Aether Veil is activated, Aria would generate 4 Fandom Power. This effect has a 1-second cooldown. In addition, any corruption anomalies applied by the team will be extended by 3 seconds. First off, going back to Aria's ultimate, since it activates Aether Veil Delusion, Aria will get 3 All-Out Cheering stacks and 4 Fandom Power stacks. As for the second part of this ability, Corruption now lasts for 13 seconds instead of 10 seconds. This gives Aria extra time to prepare Fandom Power if she's not immediately ready to plunge. A longer Corruption timer also means Aria's disorder damage potential is higher. Even though Aria focuses on being a solo carry, she's not banned from being played with a second anomaly agent. Before moving on, something to think about: Sunna is a support and Nangong is a stun agent. Why does Aria's addition ability still specify you can use an Angels of Delusion member? Are the devs trying to tell us something, or is this just a harmless oversight? Speculations aside, we have covered Aria's main mechanics, so let's review. Aria's level 3 charged basic attacks, aka her plunge attacks, can trigger a bloom on foes with anomalies. To do multiple plunge attacks in a row, Aria can consume Fandom Power, which she can generate with certain moves like her 4th basic attack, her EX specials, and her chain attack. Aria's ultimate grants 3 free plunges while also activating Aether Veil Delusion. With her additional ability, any Aether Veil trigger will grant more Fandom Power. Aria will want to spam as many plunges during a stun phase as possible because her bloom multiplier gets a massive increase. As such, Aria typically wants a stunner. It's not a must, but that is how the full Angels of Delusion team of Sunna, Aria, and Nangong is going to be functioning. Let's continue with some tips for Aria's on-field fighting. If Aria dodges during her basic attack string, she will not reset her place in her combo. This will also apply to Aria's dash attack, which is a simple lunge move. Like an idol on stage, Aria will continue her routine to try and get to that important 4th basic attack. Aria's dodge counter is a simple spinning uppercut and it chains directly into the 3rd basic. If you have an opening, this is another way for Aria to get to the 4th basic faster. Like most agents, Aria's Quick Assist uses the same animation as the dodge counter. It too will change to the 3rd basic directly. Aria has a regular defensive assist that costs 2 assist points versus the big boss attacks. The assist follow-up does pretty decent anomaly build-up and will change into Aria's 2nd basic attack after. If Aria doesn't have 40 energy, you can instead press special after the assist follow-up to use the no ice regular special. That's the version with the iframes that generates 1 Fandom Power. The no ice special is also available to do after a chain attack or ultimate. This can be a useful thing to keep in mind to prime one more plunge attack during your stun phases. Let's talk about more stun phase tactics. The most basic combo is to do 1 chain attack then use ultimate. Assuming you have Aria's addition ability, this will activate Aether Veil and Aria will end up with 8 Fandom Power plus 3 all-out cheering stacks. After or during the ultimate animation, Aria can hold basic attack to go straight into 7 back-to-back plunges. This is a simple to execute burst damage playstyle. Additionally, Aria's chain attack plus an ultimate should basically guarantee she triggers corruption to prompt those Ablooms with. If you don't mind starting the stun with Aria, then you can also open with ultimate first when she has 0 Fandom Power. Come back in to do the 1 chain attack later, and then do your 7 plunges from there. This could be a better idea since Aria can start building decibels for her next ult after. Since 1 chain attack plus 1 ultimate will grant Aria her max 7 plunges, you should try to expend any Fandom Power before you start the stun phase. The plunge attacks are heavy attacks, so Aria is an agent I would recommend using manual chain attacks for. If you do not have this setting turned on, then any plunge will start the stun phase. With manual chain attacks, holding down basic attack will skip the chain attack sequence, allowing Aria to use up her Fandom Power. You can also swap off Aria while she's midair if you want to start the sequence with another agent. If the boss has a really long stun phase, Aria can take advantage of a double chain attack. Start the stun with another agent, bring Aria in for her first chain attack, then cancel the 2nd prompt. Swap to another agent, do a heavy attack to get to the 3rd prompt, and bring Aria in again. This loads up 8 Fandom Power. After you do your 4 plunge attacks, if the stun is still active, Aria can generate more Fandom Power with her EX specials or ultimate. A reminder that any Aether Veil activations will grant 4 Fandom Power. If you have Sunna, her 2nd EX special triggers Aether Veil, so you can start a stun with the selfie, send Aria in for the chain attack, and that gives 8 Fandom Power. For regular on-field combat, we can use Sunna's tap EX special 2 times to trigger her Quick Assist earlier. Because Sunna's Aether Veil only happens after the 2nd EX special finishes, Aria can use the Quick Assist then consume Fandom Power before Sunna grants more. For example, Aria's 2-part EX special grants 6 Fandom. You can swap off Aria while she finishes her 2nd EX special, have Sunna tap her EX special twice, then as she finishes her animations, you can Quick Assist in Aria. Hold basic attack to consume 2 Fandom Power to start plunging. Sunna will trigger her Aether Veil after, thus granting 4 more Fandom. This allows Aria to now do 5 plunge attacks in a row. If you want to get more advanced, Aria is able to swap out right as she starts her plunge attack. This will send Aria in and she can trigger a bloom in the background. If you have Sunna on the team, Aria's plunge attacks will include her in the animation after the initial cast. You can swap to Sunna mid-animation, but she will be locked into the plunge attack animation as well. For those that want to showcase some skill expression, there is a very small window where you can swap to Sunna right as Aria starts a plunge and she won't get dragged into the joint animation. This lets Sunna start her EX special earlier, which can reload Aria with more Fandom Power. The timing for this is very tight. My best advice for getting the timing is to not look at Aria, but to look for the shockwave she emits when she lands on the ground. When you see the shockwave flowing out to the side, that's when you swap agents. While Aria can swap to other allies not named Sunna at any time during her jump, I am assuming Nangong may also join the full Angels of Delusion plunge attack party. If that happens, then getting this timing down could be a useful tech to practice. You don't have to do it all the time, but it's a neat little trick. As we move into the build section, Aria will want the usual stats all anomaly agents want: more attack and more anomaly proficiency. That increases her corruption damage, which directly increases her Abloom damage. Aria will get 90 AP from her core passive, and by leveling it, it will also grant an initial anomaly mastery, which also determines the Abloom damage scaling. You can only get more initial anomaly mastery from 3 sources. One is the Partition 6 Drive Disc, the second is the 2-piece Faith and Melee Disc set. With those 2 sources, Aria can get 208 initial anomaly mastery. The third source of initial AM will be the main stat of a W engine. Currently, the only option with this is Aria's signature. That will bump her initial anomaly mastery to 253. This is how we got those two numbers I used at the start of the video. Aria's signature W engine is called Angel in the Shell. It grants 30% anomaly mastery and another 90 AP in combat. If used by an ether agent, coming onto the field or using special or EX special will grant 20% damage to foes with active anomalies. It also grants 10% anomaly damage, and this lasts for 15 seconds. Angel in the Shell literally activates just for stepping onto the field. If Aria stays out longer than 15 seconds, you just need to use any type of special to refresh the timer. This W engine grants 2 different damage multipliers, and to get the most damage, Aria technically wants to re-trigger corruption because the second corruption will get that 20% bonus damage. For other S-rank options, Aria technically could use Yanagi's Time Weaver, but you have to use a special to get its AP buffs, which can be an issue if you wanted to immediately start plunge attacking. Same issue for Fusion Compiler. Aria can instead use Vivian's Flight of Fancy. She gets extra build-up rate and can stack AP when doing any attack. It does require up to 6 hits and only lasts for 5 seconds though, so this too will require some preparation or you may not get the full AP buff. Onto the A ranks, we have the usual 2 craftables and 1 battle pass options. All 3 are decent, but they have some quirks. Weeping Gemini is great for standard disorder teams, but if Aria is going for stuns, she may not get the 4 stacks fast enough before it resets. This is an issue, although if you have extra anomaly build-up from like Yuzuha or an other ether agent, then it might not be so bad. As for Rainforest Gourmet, you need to use EX specials to get its in-combat attack buff. Generally not a big deal, but the buff only lasts 10 seconds, so you want to use EX specials right before a stun starts. Last, Electro Lip Gloss is the most hands-off, it just works option. As long as the foe has an anomaly, you get bonus attack and damage. Like Aria's signature, you kinda want to re-trigger corruption so the following corruption / Ablooms will be stronger. In the future, if you don't have Aria's signature, be on the lookout for any anomaly mastery main stat W engines. For Drive Disc, Aria will use the standard main stats of Anomaly Proficiency Partition 4, Ether Damage Partition 5, and Anomaly Mastery Partition 6. You can also try % attack or pin ratio in Partition 5. Just like Vivian, Aria's personal Drive Disc set has been around for a bit. Finally, Aria really wants to use 2-piece Faithless Melody at all times for the 8% Anomaly Mastery. Pair that with the newer 4-piece Shining Aria for the general setup. Shining Aria grants 10% ether damage, and on any basic attack you get 36 AP for 8 seconds. The plunge attacks are considered basic attacks, so no issue there. In addition, when any foe is stunned, Aria gets 25% bonus damage for 18 seconds. Aria spamming charged basic attacks during stun phases fits the conditions of Shining Aria perfectly. With that being said, you may have noticed that 4-piece Faithless Melody isn't that different. The activation conditions for 45 AP require any EX special cast. If it's from another agent, then Aria will also get 25% ether damage. These buffs only last for 8 seconds, and if Aria is spamming plunges, she might not refresh them during a stun. However, if you're playing Aria with a second anomaly agent and going for disorders, then Faithless Melody might be more useful. If you can't get the stun, then Shining Aria doesn't fully work. If you have extra Drive Disc, you can just swap between 4-piece Shining Aria and 4-piece Faithless Melody while sticking with the 2-piece of the other set. If you don't want to farm Shining Aria, you can also use 4-piece Faithless Melody with 2-piece Chaotic Meadow as an ether damage replacement. You can also use 2-piece Freedom Blues or Chaos Jazz for 30 AP. Feel free to use attack or pin ratio 2-piece sets as well. For teams, Aria wants a stunner support for her addition ability, and this will be her standard solo anomaly team. Like other anomaly agents, you can play Aria with a second anomaly ally and try to create disorders back and forth. For a third team option, you can also just play Aria by herself with double support / buffers. Aria will be the main DPS for the Angels of Delusion, and we know Nangong is an ether stunner to complete the team. You can assume she will have further synergy with Aria's kit. As for Sunna, her attack buffs in Etherville are excellent, plus her Cascade's bonus damage will gain guaranteed crits with 150% extra crit damage since Aria is an anomaly agent. Since we do not have Nangong just yet, the devs have provided an alternative in Lycon. With his buffs in version 2.6, Lycon's addition ability now works with anomaly agents. He can provide his 35% stun damage multiplier bonus for Aria, and he also now provides a 30% general damage boost to non-ice agents. To further sweeten the deal, Lycon can also stun from off field, sort of. Besides Lycon, Aria can also use any fast stunner like Kaleda, but Kaleda only buffs chain attacks. Other general stunners like Jafufu mainly buff crit damage, and King of the Summit is a bit wasted for Aria who isn't building crit rate. Now if you want more damage, the stun agent can instead hold Astral Voice if you're using a quick assisting support. Maybe it's a waste, but Aria can team up with Dialin. I mean, stun time extension, stun damage multiplier, and an extra ultimate equates to 5 more plunges. Yeah, Dialin kinda just works for everyone. Moving on, for disorder teams, Aria can't get disorders with Vivian, so Bernice is the only off-field option. She feels quite good after her own boss. Since a lot of the year 1 enemies were weak to ice and ether damage, naturally Miyabi can be a fun pairing. Feel free to try out any other anomaly agents depending on the enemy. For other allies, Zhao can buff attack and trigger Ether Veil, but her Ether Veil is a lot harder to control compared to Sunna. Set can grant AP, and you could try to take the place of a stunner with some impact gear. For other attack buffers, Astra, Caesar, and Lucy are available, although if you're playing Lycon, you could use Sokaku. Nicole and Rina are Deep and Shred and Pen Ratio options, but Aria's punch attacks may outlast her shorter buff timers. Last, Yuzuha is rerunning with Aria's banner, and she is the premier anomaly-focused support. Attack and anomaly damage buffs, plus her ability to help build up any anomaly type makes Yuzuha just incredible. Run her with Sunna to double buff up Aria, or you could try Nicole to diversify your buffs. Just an insane support if you like any anomaly agent. In general, we've had some solo anomaly type carries before, but Aria really takes advantage of the stun phase. The main issue is that the current stunners aren't really made for anomaly agents. This is probably the main reason Lycon got changes in this update. Still, I am very curious how the full Angels of Delusion team will pan out once Nangong Yu finally arrives. Let's now talk about Aria's Mindscapes. For M1, Aria's basic attacks, regular specials, and EX specials ignore 10% of the foe's anomaly build-up resistance. Aria's Ablooms now can crit with a base crit rate and crit damage of 25%. You can improve the crit rate by 0.5% for every point of initial anomaly mastery Aria has above 100. 208 AM will get her to 79% crit rate, while unsurprisingly, the 253 AM with signature will get Aria over 100%. This is a pretty fun bonus damage mindscape. For M2, Aria's Ablooms will ignore 16% of the foe's defense. During Moment of Delusion, aka after ulting, all of Aria's attacks get an additional 8% defense shred. Another damage boosting mindscape, and another win if you like to use Nicole. For M4, when Aria triggers Ablooms, she gains 4 energy and 70 decibels. This can occur once every 10 seconds. Energy isn't really an issue for Aria, but extra decibels can ensure she has an ultimate ready for those stun phases. Speaking of ultimate, for M6, Aria gains 1200 decibels at the start of the fight. After casting ult to enter Moment of Delusion, Aria will no longer exit this state. Her enhanced plunge attacks and ultimate will gain 40% increased ether damage. While in Moment of Delusion, any anomaly triggers on an enemy will grant 1 stack of all-out cheering. This can occur once every 6 seconds, and if Aria has the max 3 stacks, then it will be converted into 2 Phantom Power instead. With Mindscape 6, Aria gets faster ultimates and will stay in Moment of Delusion permanently. She gains extra base damage, plus anomaly triggers will grant free plunge attacks occasionally. Overall, Aria's got some pretty good Mindscapes, with M1 granting Ablooms the ability to crit and M2 giving the rare defense shred. M4 and M6 ensure more ultimate uptime and free plunge attacks on any anomaly trigger. If you like Aria, I would get her signature W engine first, since there are no other ways to boost her initial anomaly mastery stat. That stat also boosts the Abloom multipliers, so it's very important. For the after party tips section, I'll cover some extra info in a more casual manner. I was concerned that the team animation with Sunna might prevent her from being a perfect assist candidate like with Astra or Zhao. Thankfully, you can swap to Sunna freely, and I assume the same will apply to Nangong if she's joining this plunge attack party. I didn't properly cover it earlier, so here are all the ways Aria can instantly start plunge attacking if you have Phantom Power available. This can be done by holding basic attack after any of the following. The 4th basic attack. The No Ice regular special. The first EX special, Fall into Delusion. Aria's quick assist, but not her dodge counter, even if they are the same animation. For the next set of moves, you can hold basic attack or tap the button. First is the level 3 plunges themselves, next is Aria's chain attack, last is her ultimate. It is important to know about these moves triggering by tapping basic attack, because if you wanted to save Phantom Power for later, then you'll have to do another input first. The easiest way is to just dodge/dash attack before you continue. If you end up using Aria's ultimate at the start of a stun, you can hold basic attack to have Aria start one plunge attack as the chain attack sequence begins. I don't believe you can do this for her actual chain attacks, but for double chain attack sequences, you can also start plunge attacking after you cancel the prompt. For example, you can do your 2 plunge attacks before swapping off and triggering the second chain attack to go back in. I don't believe it's in the description, but after Aria's second EX special, Instantly Hooked, tapping basic attack will also start plunging instead of doing normal basics. This doesn't apply to the first EX special, which allows Aria to just do a second Delusion combo instead. As a note, in cases where Aria can use multiple ultimates like in Hollow Zero or with Dial-In, any remaining all-out cheering stacks will be converted into 2 Fandom Power. This is to prevent you from just stacking all-out cheering since it maxes out at 3. In a similar vein, if Moment of Delusion ends before Aria uses all-out cheering, the very leftovers are converted back into Fandom Power. I'm not sure it's intended, but Aria's regular special does have iframes while in the air. Neat, but you should probably just dodge counter instead. For area effect and grouping, Aria's basic attack string can push foes in a direction and it has a decently wide reach. The EX specials and plunge attacks have moderate AoE to trigger those Ablooms, and typically it's pretty easy to trigger anomalies onto these small mobs. If you're playing with a stunner, Aria's chain attack does have a spinning portion that can group foes up. It's not the strongest effect, but it's generally good enough. Last, the Angels of Delusion have a joint idle animation. The active angel will be in the front, and the 2.6 trailers did tease Nangong doing this dance, so look forward to the full idle routine very soon. In conclusion, Aria is fairly easy to play in terms of her main damage combo. The complexities will come from generating Phantom Power and then triggering stuns efficiently. While Aria can use other supports besides Sunna, the majority of the stun agents are focused around attack and rupture teams. Let's see if Nangong will shake up that dynamic. That being said, I still enjoyed Aria with disorder teams. The more anomaly agents you have, the more disorder teams you can create, but definitely save the stun phase time for Aria to unleash her Ablooms. That's all I have to say for this video. 2 angels have debuted, 1 more to go. Have fun with Aria, as well as the other celebrations going on in version 2.6. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.